She thought I'd beg for her back with a bigger ring. Instead, I blocked her number and moved on. 3 months later, she's couch surfing and drowning in credit card debt, all because her friends said my ring wasn't expensive enough. Hey, this is Logan. I'm not saying I'm some kind of hero here. I'm just a guy who went to law school, passed the bar on the second try, second, whatever, and landed at a mid-sized firm doing corporate compliance work. Boring as hell, honestly, but it pays between $150 and $200K, depending on how fat the year-end bonus is. Not bad for a kid whose parents couldn't help with college. I got student loans that'll outlive me, or at least that's what it feels like some months when I'm cutting that check. I met Taylor 3 years ago at some mutual friend's rooftop thing. One of those summer nights where everyone's pretending the cheap beer tastes good and the city skyline makes up for the crowd. She was funny, had this way of roasting people that wasn't mean, just sharp enough to make you laugh. Customer support at some tech startup, making maybe $35K if I'm being generous. She hated it, complained about entitled customers screaming at her over password resets, and I got it. Soul-crushing work for shit pay. We started dating, and about 8 months in, her roommate situation fell apart. Some drama with unpaid utilities and a lease that ended badly. I had a 1-bedroom in a decent part of town, nothing fancy but clean and close to my office, and I just sort of said she could crash at my place until she figured things out. Except she never really figured things out. She moved in properly, brought her stuff, and that temporary arrangement became permanent. Here's the thing, though, I didn't mind. I mean, yeah, she wasn't paying rent. My lease, my name, my problem. She'd throw in for groceries sometimes, pick up toilet paper or dish soap, maybe cook dinner a couple nights a week. But the big stuff? The $2,400 rent, the internet, the electric bill that spikes every summer when the AC runs nonstop, the parking spot, the renter's insurance. That was all me. And my student loans, still sitting at like $80K even after 3 years of payments. Plus I was trying to save for a down payment because I'm not paying some landlord forever, But I loved her. I really did. She made me laugh after 14-hour days reviewing compliance documents that could put an insomniac to sleep. She'd wait up for me sometimes, have a beer ready, ask about my day, even though she didn't understand half the legal jargon I was bitching about. She had this way of making our cramped apartment feel like home, even when I was stressed about billable hours or some partner breathing down my neck about a deadline. So after 2.5 years together, living together for most of that, I started thinking about proposing. Made sense, right? We were solid. She'd hinted at it a few times, nothing pushy, just casual mentions when we'd see engagement photos on social media or pass a jewelry store. She showed me this one ring style once, months before I actually proposed, just scrolling on her phone and going, God, that's gorgeous, about some vintage-looking rose gold band with a round stone. I screenshotted it when she wasn't looking. I spent weeks researching. I'm a lawyer, man. Research is what I do. I found a jeweler who could custom make something close to that style she'd loved. Rose gold band, round diamond, delicate setting, the whole thing. Cost me $3,000. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. $3,000 isn't nothing, but it's not some insane 5-figure rock either. But here's the deal. I was balancing everything. I've been supporting both of us for years. Every nice dinner we went to, every weekend trip upstate, every time we ordered takeout, because she'd had a brutal day at work, I paid for it. I wasn't keeping score, but I also wasn't made of money. I had loans to crush and a future to build. For us. The ring was perfect, though. Exactly her style. I worked with the jeweler to get the details right, made sure the rose gold had that warm tone she liked, made sure the diamond was eye-clean, even if it wasn't flawless under a microscope. It was thoughtful, personal. I was proud of it. I proposed in our apartment. Nothing elaborate. I'm not a grand gesture guy, and she knew that about me. Just came home one Friday after a shorter day. She was on the couch in sweatpants watching some true crime documentary, and I pulled out the box. Told her I loved her, told her I wanted to build a life together, asked her to marry me. She cried. Good tears, I'm pretty sure. She said yes immediately, put the ring on, kept staring at it. We ordered pizza, drank a bottle of wine I'd been saving, stayed up late talking about the future. Where we get married, whether we'd buy a house in the suburbs or stay in the city, if she'd finally quit that customer support job she hated. She posted a photo of the ring on Instagram that night, hand posed on my chest so you could see the band. She seemed happy, really happy. I went to bed that night thinking I'd nailed it, thinking everything was finally falling into place, thinking we were solid. I had no idea what was coming.
Hey there, Taylor here. I was so excited at first. Like genuinely excited. When Logan proposed, I felt this rush of everything. Relief. Happiness. This sense of finally, you know. The ring was beautiful too. I loved it the second I saw it. Rose gold. Exactly the style I'd shown him months ago when I didn't even think he was paying attention. He remembered. That meant something. I posted it on Instagram right away, hand on his chest, angled so the light caught the stone. I texted my mom, sent photos to my group chat with the girls. I kept looking at it while we ate pizza that night, turning my hand to watch to catch the lamplight. I felt like I was floating. The next day I met Jess and Morgan for brunch. I couldn't wait to show them in person. I walked in practically bouncing, held out my hand before I even sat down. And the reactions I got, God, I should have known right then something was off about them, not about Logan. Jess barely glanced at it before her face did this thing. This pinched, trying not to laugh thing. She goes, oh, it's cute. Cute. Like it was a fucking charm bracelet from Claire's. Morgan picked up my hand, squinted at the stone, asked what size it was. I didn't know. She made the soft hum sound, the kind that sounds sympathetic but is actually dripping with judgment. Then Jess started. She said, and I remember this exactly because it's burned into my brain now, she said. I mean, it's pretty, but didn't you say Logan makes like 150 or 200,000 a year? I nodded, feeling something start to shrivel in my chest. She leaned back, sipped her mimosa and goes, yeah, so he definitely could have done better. This is what? Maybe a carat. Probably less. For a lawyer's salary? Taylor, come on. Morgan jumped in, backing her up. Started talking about how her cousin's fiancé makes $80K and bought a 2-carat ring. How guys always lowball the first ring to see what they can get away with. How if you don't push back, they think you're fine with the bare minimum forever. She said I deserved better, that Logan clearly didn't value me enough if this was what he thought was acceptable. I tried to defend it. I said it was custom, that he'd chosen the exact style I wanted. Jess actually rolled her eyes. Said, every ring is custom now, that's just marketing. What matters is what he spent. And clearly he didn't spend much. The worst part was how reasonable they made it sound. Like they were looking out for me. They said men always upgrade if you demand it, that it's basically expected. Jess told me about some friend of hers who complained about her engagement ring, and her fiancé bought her a bigger one within a month. Just caved because he knew she deserved it. By the time brunch ended, I felt sick. Not excited anymore. The ring felt light on my finger, suddenly cheap instead of delicate. I kept thinking about what they'd said, about Logan's salary, about how he could have spent way more. 3,000 sounded like a lot at first, but then Jess mentioned her boyfriend had spent $8,000 on a ring, and he made less than Logan. I started doing the math in my head. Logan made at least $150K, probably closer to $180K with bonuses. After taxes, what? Maybe $110K take home. If he's so careful about money for a down payment, why not the ring? If he really loved me, wouldn't he want to show it with something that reflected his actual income? I started noticing things I hadn't cared about before. How he'd mentioned saving like that was more important than our engagement. How he'd buy the cheapest paper towels, but expect me to be thrilled with a ring he probably got on sale. I started wearing it less. Not on purpose at first, just, I don't know, it felt wrong suddenly. Heavy with disappointment instead of promise. My friends kept bringing it up too. Every time we hung out, one of them would mention it. Morgan sent me articles about engagement ring budgets, how the standard is supposedly 3 months' salary. 3 months of Logan's salary would be like $40,000 or $50,000. The ring he bought me wasn't even close. I started resenting him. The ring became this symbol of everything wrong between us. Every time I looked at it, I heard Jess's voice saying he could have done better. I started believing them. Started thinking that if Logan really saw a future with me, he wouldn't have cheated out on the one piece of jewelry I'd wear forever. I convinced myself this wasn't shallow. I told myself this was about respect, about him showing me I mattered. That asking for a better ring was setting boundaries. I decided I'd talk to him about it. Demand better. My friends said he'd cave. That guys always do. I really thought he'd just buy me a new ring. I had no idea what I was about to lose.
Something shifted after that first week. I noticed it, but didn't want to believe it, you know? Taylor started wearing the ring less. She'd take it off when she did dishes, which fine, whatever, makes sense. But then she'd leave it off, just sitting on the bathroom counter or the nightstand. When we went out with friends, she'd wear it, but her hand would stay in her lap mostly. Wouldn't show it off like she did that first night. She got quieter too, distant. I'd ask what was wrong and she'd say nothing. She was just tired. Blamed work, blamed her period, blamed the weather. I knew something was off, but I kept thinking it'd blow over. Maybe she was stressed about wedding planning or something. I didn't push it. Then one night about 2 weeks after the proposal, I came home from work and she was sitting on the couch waiting for me. Not watching TV, not on her phone, just sitting there. I knew immediately this was going to suck. She didn't even ease into it, just launched right in. Said we needed to talk about the ring. Said it wasn't what she expected, that she'd been thinking about it a lot, and she wanted me to upgrade it. Upgrade? Like it was a fucking phone plan. I just stood there holding my briefcase, trying to process what I was hearing. I asked what she meant by upgrade. She said something bigger, better quality, more expensive. Said her friends had pointed out that for what I make, I should have spent more. That $3,000 wasn't enough for a lawyer's salary. Her friends. Of course. I should have known. I tried to stay calm. I really did. I put my briefcase down, sat on the chair across from her, and explained the whole situation. How I'd been supporting both of us for 3 years. How I paid rent, utilities, everything while she contributed maybe $200 a month for groceries if I was lucky. How I had student loans still crushing me. How I was trying to save for a down payment so we could actually build something together. How I'd spent months researching that ring. Had it custom made in the exact style she'd told me she loved. She just sat there shaking her head like I was missing the point. Said it wasn't about the money I'd spent on rent or whatever. This was different. This was symbolic. Said if I really loved her, I'd prove it with a ring that showed how much she meant to me. I asked her flat out, didn't the last 3 years show how much she meant to me? Didn't letting her live rent-free while I busted my ass 60 hours a week show something? Didn't the custom ring I'd carefully chosen show I was paying attention, that I cared? She said that was all just normal relationship stuff. The ring was supposed to be special. Normal relationship stuff. 3 years of bankrolling her entire life was just normal. I felt something snap in my chest. I asked how much she thought I should spend. She got vague, said she didn't have a specific number, just something more appropriate. I pushed. Give me a number. She finally said her friend's boyfriend spent $8,000 and he made less than me, so maybe 10 to 12 grand. 10 to 12 grand. For what? A bigger rock? So her friends would approve? I told her no. Simple as that. I wasn't upgrading the ring. What I'd given her was thoughtful and expensive and exactly what she'd said she wanted. If that wasn't good enough, then maybe we had bigger problems. That's when she really went off. Started saying I didn't value her, didn't respect her, that I was being cheap and embarrassing her in front of her friends. Said every other guy steps up when their girlfriend asks for something better. Said if I couldn't do this one thing, what did that say about our future? I just stared at her. This woman I'd loved for 3 years, who I'd supported and cared for, who I'd built a life with. And all she could see was a price tag. All that mattered was impressing her shallow-ass friends who probably couldn't afford their own rent either. I stood up and held out my hand. Told her to give me the ring back. She looked stunned. Asked what I was talking about. I said if the ring wasn't good enough, she didn't need to wear it. Give it back. She started backpedaling then. Said she didn't mean it like that. She just wanted to have a conversation about it. I cut her off. Told her the conversation was over. The ring I gave her was a symbol of everything I'd given her for 3 years. If she couldn't appreciate that, couldn't see the effort and thought and sacrifice behind it, then she didn't deserve to wear it. She tried to argue, but I just kept my hand out, waiting. She finally took it off and dropped in my palm. Her hand was shaking. I told her to pack her stuff and get out. Tonight, she went pale, started saying I was overreacting, that we could talk about this. I said there was nothing to talk about. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life being milked for status symbols by someone who saw me as a wallet instead of partner. She packed, took 3 suitcases of stuff, and left that night. Went to Jess's place, I think. I didn't ask. I sat alone in the apartment afterward, that ring in my hand, wondering how the hell I'd been so blind. But I didn't call her back. Not then, not ever.
I thought he'd call within a day. 2 days, max. I kept checking my phone, waiting for the text that said he was sorry, that he'd overreacted, that we should talk. I stayed at Jess's place that first week, sleeping on her couch, telling myself this was just a fight. A bad one. Sure, but couples fight. They work through it. Logan loved me. He'd come around. Just kept saying he'd crawl back begging. That guys always do when they realize what they lost. She said he'd probably show up with the bigger ring, ready to apologize. Morgan agreed, said I'd played it perfectly, that now he knew I had standards and wouldn't just accept whatever scraps he threw at me. But days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. My texts went unanswered. My calls went straight to voicemail. I drove by the apartment once, and his car was there, but he didn't come down when I buzzed. I tried messaging him on Instagram and realized he'd blocked me. Blocked. Like I was some stalker ex instead of the woman he proposed to a month earlier. That's when the panic started setting in. The real panic, not the self-righteous anger I'd been riding on. Because I didn't have a backup plan. I'd been living rent-free for almost 3 years. No rent meant I could spend my paycheck on whatever I wanted. Clothes, brunches, those expensive face serums Jess was always raving about. I had maybe $800 in my checking account. No savings. Why would I need savings when Logan covered everything? Jess started making comments after the second week. Little things about how long I'd be staying, whether I could chip in for groceries since I was eating her food. Her apartment was tiny, a studio, and I was sleeping on a couch that folded out into a bed that smelled like her dog. She had a boyfriend who came over, and they'd disappear into her bedroom area, and I put headphones on, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about how I didn't have anywhere else to go. After 3 weeks, she said I needed to find my own place. Not mean about it, just matter of fact. Said she couldn't have a permanent roommate in a studio. I moved to Morgan's after that, another couch situation. Morgan had a 1-bedroom and at least I had a door I could close, but she made it clear from day one this was temporary. I started looking at apartments and nearly threw up when I saw the prices. Studios in halfway decent areas were going for $1,800 minimum. I made $35K a year. After taxes, that was maybe $2,200 a month take home. How was I supposed to pay $1,800 in rent plus utilities, plus food, plus everything else? The math didn't work. It had never worked, which is why living with Logan had been such a lifesaver. Except I'd never thought of it that way. I just thought of it as normal, as what you do when you're in a relationship. I tried finding a roommate situation, but everything required first month, last month, security deposit up front. I didn't have $4,000 or $5,000 sitting around. I asked my mom for help, and she said she'd loan me $1,000, but that was it. She couldn't afford more. My sister just laughed and said maybe I shouldn't have demanded a bigger ring from the guy paying all my bills. I started using my credit card for everything. Groceries, gas, new work clothes because I'd left some stuff at Logan's and wasn't about to go back there. The balance crept up. $500, $1,000, $2,000. I told myself I'd pay it off once I figured out my living situation, once things stabilized. Morgan kicked me out after 6 weeks. Said her boyfriend was moving in and there wasn't room for me anymore. I could tell she was lying, that she was just sick of me being there, but what could I say? I tried 2 other friends after that. Couch surfed for another month. Everyone got tired of me eventually. I ended up in this shitty place with 3 random roommates I found on Craigslist. My room was barely big enough for a twin bed. I could hear everything through the walls. It cost me $900 a month plus utilities, and it was still stretching me, so thin I was eating ramen most nights. My credit card debt hit $6,000, then $8,000. I was paying the minimum, and watching the balance grow because of interest. I picked up extra hours at work, but customer support doesn't exactly pay overtime. I kept thinking about Logan's apartment, how spacious it was, how quiet, how I never had to worry about anything. I thought about the ring too, that beautiful rose gold ring I'd shit all over because Jess said it wasn't expensive enough. I wanted it back. I wanted everything back. I tried calling him one last time. 3 months after he'd kicked me out, the number was disconnected. He changed it. I sat on my twin bed in my shoebox room, listening to my roommates fight through the wall, staring at my credit card statement, and realized I destroyed my entire life over a rock. Logan never came back. Never called. Never texted. Never gave me a chance to apologize or explain. And honestly, I didn't blame him. But that didn't make my life any less of a disaster.